Hello and welcome to the Western PA CoC Written Standards Training, specific for providers operating supportive services only projects, including supportive services only for coordinated entry projects. My name is Lauren Whitley. I work for Diana T. Myers and Associates, or DMA. We are the consultant for the Western PA CoC. So the written standards are required by HUD. Every CoC must have a set of standards that provides guidance for CoC and ESG funded projects related to operations and service delivery. The goal of the standards is to ensure that all projects are operating in a consistent, coordinated way, and that is compliant with HUD and CoC expectations. The Western PA CoC written standards really goes above and beyond HUD's minimum requirements to make the document a helpful tool and resource for providers operating these ESG and CoC funded projects. And the document is divided into three main sections. The first covers standards for all project types. So those standards apply to all projects. The second are project-specific standards, and that's what we're going to cover in this presentation. We'll cover standards that are specific to supportive service only projects. And then finally, there are appendices which provide supplemental information and documents that are referenced throughout the standards. There is a companion optional forms and templates document. It's not required to use those templates, but they are available to providers as a resource. So if you have not already watched the recording of the training on standards for all project types, please make sure to do so. This presentation will focus specifically on standards that are specific to SSO projects, including SSO for coordinated entry projects. So for supportive services only for coordinated entry projects, which include coordinated entry assessment centers and coordinated entry staff, those projects shall be governed by the established expectations and standards outlined in the MOU between the CoC Governing Board and the SSO-CE grantee or coordinated entry lead agency. The CoC's coordinated entry policies and procedures and other applicable coordinated entry governing documents as they are adopted. And there's a link to the coordinated entry policies and procedures there. So for all other supportive service only projects, the goals are to provide services to persons experiencing homelessness who are not tied to specific housing units, and to help people relocate from unsheltered locations to somewhere safe as quickly as possible. How do folks access supportive service only projects? Staff are able to enroll households across the community, outside office walls, engaging with participants early and often. Supportive services only projects are required to provide the access, diversion, assessment, prioritization, and referral phases of coordinated entry, as described in the CE policies and procedures. If funded to provide prevention services, including assessment, triage, and/or housing problem-solving prevention services, SSO projects must provide the prevention phase of coordinated entry. If funded to provide longer-term case management services, SSO projects must provide the rapid exit phase of coordinated entry. And if funded to provide the prevention and rapid exit phases of coordinated entry, SSO projects must use a progressive engagement approach that incorporates housing problem-solving prevention techniques to serve households with case management, supportive services, and financial assistance, including one-time payments and short-term housing assistance to identify the lightest touch method to successfully reestablish each household into safe, stable, permanent housing. Which households are eligible for supportive services only? Those who are literally homeless, so meet the Category 1 definition of homelessness. Folks who are at imminent risk of homelessness, meaning they will lose all housing within 14 days, and/or those who are fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence. Those who are unsheltered would be prioritized for supportive service only projects and have an expedited enrollment to the greatest extent possible over other households who are sheltered. What are the documentation requirements specific to SSO projects? There should be documentation and case files that SSO projects are working with participants to obtain their necessary documentation, like Social Security cards, birth certificates, documentation of chronic homelessness status, documentation of disability, etc. And then there are additional documentation requirements that are found in the all project type section of the written standards. Duration and amounts of assistance in supportive services only projects. There should be repeated attempts to engage and assist households while respecting participant choice, and no one should be terminated from supportive services only project unless they are placed in housing of their choice. They indicate that they no longer need services and request that their case be closed, or they pose a serious threat of harm to SSO staff or other participants. Some case management requirements, standards specific to supportive services only projects, that they be housing focused, meaning they're assisting participants in obtaining housing and engaging participants from day one to assess housing barriers, develop housing plans, and link households to the right types of assistance to facilitate movement into permanent housing. That also SSO case managers should be linking participants to mainstream benefits and resources, including behavioral health and intellectual disability services. And participants should be linked to additional services by way of a warm handoff to the greatest extent possible. Performance measures specific to supportive services only projects are that folks should be moving into permanent housing within an average of 30 days or less. So next steps, all CoC and ESG funded projects must sign off by April 30th that they've reviewed the written standards, they understand them, they commit to implementing them, they've watched the recorded trainings, and they will ensure that all new hires review the standards and watch the recorded trainings within 60 days of hire. If there are standards that programs are not implementing, you must make a plan to implement them by June 30th. And feedback on the standards is welcome year-round at the link provided. And these links will be shared widely for folks. But please, we welcome any and all feedback and recommendations throughout the year, and the Written Standards Committee will take them into consideration when they, during their next round of updates. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions at all, please email the CoC at westerncoc@pennsylvaniacoc.org. And thank you again and have a great day.